Got it. Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 22nd, about 10:31 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, soon to be Pacific Standard Time, apparently. But we'll see what happens with all of that voting going on the East Coast. Welcome to the KOSW, the Ocean Shores Radio Board meeting, and like to kick it off with a little roll call. Members of the board that are present.
Rosanna here.
Daryl Prowse here.
Let's see, do we have Dave or? Oh, wow, we don't have Dave or Thomas online. Well, I guess we'll proceed. We do have a quorum, but I think we need to find out why those guys are not present, but we'll follow up on that as the meeting progresses, perhaps.
I'll give them a call.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I would appreciate that. Okay. Oh, somebody else. Okay. Maybe that was a caller. Nope. All right. Well, let's see. We'll got the roll call. We have the basic group here for quorum. So we'll proceed. Approval of the meeting agenda. Does anyone have comments or adjustments to the meeting agenda? And then we'll ask for a
Hi, I'm looking for Dave Bunce.
Trey mute.
Oh, that may have been Rosanna's. I'm not sure.
No.
Okay. So approval of the meeting agenda. Could I hear a
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
move? Okay.
A second.
All right. Thank you very much. We will move forward then. Public communications. We do have Don, I believe. Yes, Don Williams is on board. I don't know of any other, I don't see any other public attendees. Don, do you have a comment or?
Yeah,
question?
sure. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've had a lot of trouble with the streaming of the city council meeting, but the one that was last week was excellent. I mean, 100%, in stereo and very clear. So whatever the folks are doing works out. I hope they keep doing that. I also want to say I have not been able to even understand the last 3 planning commission meetings held at the I think they were held at Oyet Bay. The audio was totally unusable. I know that's not your problem, but there's a problem down at that location, and I think they're coming back to the library today, so maybe it'll be better. But anyhow, thank you for whatever you're doing with the radio broadcast. I mean, the city council broadcast, because it is working. And I wonder, Marty, if you're going to be talking about the license. Are we still applying for a higher power license? And I'm wondering, is that at the same location? Where is that location at? I understand you got the license approved for the low power, and I'm assuming that's at the Public Works, but where is the high power one being cited? Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Don. I appreciate your comments and questions. I'll address those under the technology report. How about that? Would you have time to stand by for at least a few minutes for this?
Sure, I'll be here the whole meeting.
Oh, terrific. Okay, thank you very much. We'll bring that in then. And it looks like we have Tom has joined us, and not sure if Dave has joined us yet, but welcome, Tom.
Yep, I'm here. This is Dave.
Oh, and Dave? Oh, okay, there you are. Plus Dave. Okay, good. All right, well, thank you.
Hey, Marty, this is Daryl. I'd like to make
Yes.
a comment to thank Don Williams for his coming to these meetings and giving us citizen input. You know, it really helps to hear, you know, another voice, and I think it's just great. So thanks, Don.
Yes, yeah, it helps keep us on track to know that we're doing the right things. I mean, it's terribly frustrating for all parties when things go sideways. So, all right, chair report. Well, let's see. I'll hold off on the FCC matters until I get to the technology. But we have had some good news from the FCC, and we are moving forward on a couple of points that'll be up before the city council in the near future. There was a Washington State regional emergency management meeting recently. It was on March 8th, and it's called the Washington SECC meeting. And they're discussing the matters of emergency alert systems throughout Washington State. And they are focusing on cybersecurity right now and infrastructure security, and our weekly testing of the emergency alert system. And things are just progressing as one would expect with a large group, slow but positive directions in improving the ability of the stations that participate in the emergency alert system to communicate with one another. In fact, FEMA just recently undertook some improvements at Cairo 710 kilohertz in Seattle, since they're what's called the primary entry point station for the Washington State. Oregon has theirs is down in Portland, but ours is the primary station of monitoring and dissemination of emergency alert information. So FEMA's backing them with improvements in their facilities. Also, the FCC's Enforcement Bureau has begun their equal employment opportunity audits of stations that are in the non-commercial band. It doesn't affect us now, but eventually those will, as we'll have to meet the filing requirements for several of those types of items. Moving on to the station reports. Butch, do you want to open up and then we'll have Trey follow?
Sure. First, we did our first really playing music for an outside venue, which we did the Razor Clam Festival on Sunday from 11 to 3. And I want to thank Roseanne, Della, Barn, Mike, the boat guy, Tom, and our intern Levi for all the help that they provided for me at that event. It was kind of uneventful for us on a Sunday, but nevertheless, we had fun, got to test equipment, get it out there and get the rust off the speakers and all the other good stuff. So that was a lot of fun. I had a question for Sarah. She sent us an announcement for the retreat. And was she asking us to, she wanted us to broadcast that or just announce it?
Broadcast.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear so we can get that figured out. VFW approached us and they got a golf tournament coming up this September that we're gonna put out the word for, but they got next year, they got the Vietnam Wall, traveling wall coming up for 4 days. So we really want to push that event when it's coming up there. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of stuff here, but we were trying to get on we're having a heck of a time with the Amazon account. And one thing is probably because we don't have an OS.gov email address. We're working with a guy named Kyle over at Amazon for it, but it might be a lot easier if we just had a generic OS.gov email that we can do radio business out of. Will that work, Sarah?
Probably. That's probably a really, really good accountability idea also. So
Okay.
let me reach out to our IT department and see if we can't set something up. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they,
that's, yeah,
Butch, I'll just interject. They had been almost out or virtually out of email addresses within the system without having to step up to a larger enterprise system that that the city would have to fund. And I don't know if they were reserving a couple just to hold or what, but this will be good. And it's a great exercise to find out if we can fit in or not. That'd be good.
because every time we try to put in either KOSWLP913 at Gmail or Papa Butch at KOSWradio.com, all of them get kicked back to us.
I see.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Understood. Yeah, and we'll take this up as a separate matter in the future. It's not urgent right now, but if you'll notice, my email address that I use for KOSW in particular for the radio board activities is a made up email address that I went and got at a company called gmx.com. It's just a free email address. But for uniformity, it starts out with osgov dot, and then my first initial last name, and then at gmx.com. I haven't been really strict about this. I think that was something that previously had been an important factor perhaps for the tracking of information on our board activities. So in theory, we should all have similarly phrased email addresses available. And that occurred because the city was running out of email addresses under the OS.gov. So it's possible that if they have already expanded the ability to add more users, that maybe we could actually get OS.gov email addresses. But in theory, we should all be starting out with that OS.gov dot first initial last name format. It's a formality. I think we're doing fine working around it right now, but it would make some sense in the long run to return to either that format for everyone or actually obtaining city email addresses.
Well, I used to have an OS.gov email address
Exactly.
when I was on the board.
Exactly. Well, they've eliminated those as available from the board. Mine had gotten scrubbed too. And I think it was just because they were trying to manage the database of users and keep it within the limits of the size of the Microsoft license that they presently had. So, okay, Trey, do you have any important information to share with us, please? Oops, we're not hearing you, Trey. You're still muted. Nope.
He's still muted.
Yeah. Trey,
You gotta unmute, Trey.
maybe he's having difficulties. Well, we can come back.
Wait a
Oh, there we
second.
go. Now we
Okay,
got
I
it.
was gonna say, I kept pressing unmute and it just kept not doing anything. Anyway, I was gonna say, well, with a little assistance from Randall, we have been adding lots of music. I think, just from looking, because I do a daily backup, we've probably got 165,000 songs in our database. Now, that's not 165,000 different songs because, of course, you know, like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, we have many copies of the same thing, but I think we have probably one of the most impressive music libraries in the country.
That's a very good number. That's amazing.
It is. Let's see, Levi is about halfway through his internship. And while he's doing well in some areas, not so well in others, I was kind of hoping that he would be an Aspergian like myself who like to do research, but it turns out that that is not the case. He is not very good at doing self-directed work. We've been trying to get him some hours that where he can, like at home, maybe reviewing shows, maybe doing research, but that has not come to pass. So.
Are you guiding?
So, Sarah, I have two questions for you. One, are we any closer to having a drum for our printer?
It's been ordered.
Okay, and second, and I had sent this back to you in an email. If we're gonna cover the retreat, do we get time and a half?
No.
No, the answer should be yes, because time and a half times 0 is still 0.
Okay,
Just a little morning levity there.
okay. Any
That's
other
fine.
items, Trey?
No,
Okay, well, hey, thank you. Appreciate that. We'll move forward then. Technology report, and I have the honor of answering Don Williams' question regarding the FCC application that's been pending since the original application went into the free-for-all world of applications that were from Aberdeen, Hoquiam, Montesano, all over the place out here. And fortunately, we were able to find an alternate frequency to take us out of the massive group of stations that were all vying for the same frequency, which was 89.5, which is a delightful frequency, but unfortunately, too many other folks with larger population bases filed for that. But direct answer is we have, as of the 21st, so yesterday morning, the very first FCC application of the day that was processed was the broadcast construction permit for KOSW. So we have received the 88.9 allocation frequency licensed to Ocean Shores. The physical location, due to the other constraints based on frequency use at this point, is the cell phone tower that's owned by US Cellular, which is located about a mile or so east of the community of Pacific Beach. And it's on the beach highway or whatever that's called there, just east of Pacific Beach. We're determining whether or not we're actually going to construct it there. We have not entered yet into negotiations with the owner of the tower, US Cellular. However, they are receptive to negotiating because that was part of the basis of allowing us to be able to use that tower site in our application. You have to have what's called reasonable assurance of availability, because the FCC in the old days, people would file on a hilltop without anybody's authority to have access to the property. And then after the commission granted an application, it would turn out that they would have to be moved right away because they didn't actually have an agreement or even an understanding with the underlying property owner. So at this point, the facility would be built at 6,000 watts effective radiated power on this cellular tower that is just east of Pacific Beach. And it's about 1.5 miles, looks right down onto Seabrook. And it will cover all the way from the northern areas of the Highway 109 that goes up past Mo Clips, and then we'll loop back down and cover probably a little bit spotty, but down into the Grayland area on the other side of the bay. The coverage into Aberdeen Hoquiam is going to definitely be hit or miss from this tower site, but it will give us a very nice envelope over the entire North Beach area, which is our primary focus for emergency services and communications with those in our community, including those, of course, at the Quinault Reservation. So very pleased to see this come together, and we're very happy. We'll be the first local broadcast station with coverage across all of those areas. That is a local station. There's one other station, I think I mentioned this in a previous meeting, that does have coverage there, oddly enough. It's licensed to Vashon Island, but the transmitter site is up on South Mountain, which is a little bit southwest of Olympia, and has a very large coverage area, which does include the area where we're going to be covering. But we're the first actual local station that will have significant coverage all along the North Beach coast. So very exciting, wonderful opportunities to provide emergency services, educational services, as well as entertainment services to the citizens here in Ocean Shores, as well as expanded throughout the coastal zone. There is a link now on the KOSWradio.com website. Over on the right-hand side of the toolbar, you'll see FCC filings, I believe it is, or FCC files. Originally, we had the application link. Now we've added a link to the actual construction permit that was issued yesterday. So if you want to look at any of it, including the conditions of what are called special operating conditions, they're listed there also. And one of the operating conditions is that we have to, when we build the facility, wherever we ultimately build it, we have 3 years to construct. Our intention is to find a best location, and I see Frank's hand up, and I'll release you in just 1 second. The authorization requires that we cease operating on KOSW's present frequency of 91.3 at the time that we actually begin operations on the 88.9 frequency. There are a couple of possibilities that we'll be following up on, including alternative tower sites that have, we don't know what our cost basis for sure is going to be at the US Cellular site. Certainly they're going to charge us rent, and there will be utility costs. There's a possibility that somewhere in between where that site is and where the lowest point in our area that we could successfully build a tower that would be compatible with the FCC rules. We don't know what's available yet. There might be some Quinault land. There may be some private real estate that we could cut a deal with somebody if it turns out that the US Cellular site is too expensive or whatever. So we'll get to those as they come up, and I'll put Frank up. Go ahead and release your mic, Frank. There you go.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, indeed.
All right. So we have been approved for the 6,000 watt station, but there's still some items that we may have to, I guess, qualify to have this radio station. Is that what I'm hearing you say? There's some other things that could hold it up from moving forward with the FCC, or have we been given the go ahead to have this 6,000 watt station?
Yes, Frank. So we have been given the go-ahead with this 6,000 watt station, specifically at the US Cellular site. If we choose to pick an alternate site, or a different site, I should say, rather than an alternate, we would have to go through and file a modification of the construction permit. Generally speaking, again, that's just a filing process with the commission that would toll within the 3-year period of construction that we have available to actually build the facility. I'll be circulating a copy of it and some notes to the city council members today. I have already sent a message to Mayor Martin and to Scott Anderson at the city, notifying them of the successful receipt of the construction permit. But yes, we do. We can, tomorrow we could cut a deal with US Cellular, order the antennas, the transmission line, and be able to begin construction quite rapidly if we so choose, and the equipment and all is available. But it's all subject to negotiation with the tower site. One of the other things that is important to keep in mind is transmitter room. There is a building at the tower site. I've been up to this cellular site, walked up to it on a little logging road, and they have it's a beautiful site, lots of open space within the completely fenced zone around the tower. There is a nice building there. Whether they'll let us into that building or not, because it's right now for cellular use. And generally speaking, the cellular groups don't like to have other parties in the same building just for security purposes. So we may look at what the opportunities are of either getting a 10-foot cargo container. There's all sorts of possibilities. Building a stick building. There are lots of possibilities. Something that I have undertaken on as a sidebar note to hopefully help save some funds for the city if we choose to go this way is I've made contact with my longtime friend Bill Wolfenbarger, who owns or has owned up until this last year the Jodesha stations in Aberdeen, Hoquiam, South Bend, and Montesano. And he has offered, and in next month, I'll be picking up a tube type. It's not solid state, but it's a tube type 10,000 watt transmitter that will be just perfect for use as the main transmitter for this facility at no cost to the city or to me, other than us just going over and picking it up. So I made some arrangements with a friend, and when the local engineer goes up to the tower site sometime in April, we'll go with him and we'll physically extract the transmitter, take it to a local garage that's available that has plenty of room, and we'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb, clean it all up, and we'll have a ready-to-go transmitter for virtually no cost. If it's important to the city that we have an extremely low maintenance transmitter rather than a tube type, then what we would do is we would have to look at actually expending funds to purchase a solid state transmitter. New ones run in the $25,000 or so range, and used ones fall somewhere below that. But we'll explore all those possibilities as we go forward. But I was very excited to see that we have an opportunity to get an expensive piece of hardware, in essence, donated. So yeah,
That's real good. I appreciate that, Marty. I have one other question.
yes.
Now, we've got frequency 88.9. Are we changing our call letters for the station?
No, we will not be changing the call letters. Fortunately, we'll hold on to those lovely call letters. What we will do is drop the portion that says the -LP, because we will no longer be a low power station. We'll be a fully licensed Class A facility. So it will just be KOSW. We can say KOSW FM Ocean Shores. That's a complete station ID right there.
All right. Thank you, Marty.
Yes, you're welcome. And in fact, there's some artwork is already being worked on for our first round. And I know Butch has circulated some thoughts on getting participation, perhaps even from the community, in developing a new logo as a possibility. So very exciting times to better reflect our general team. Dave, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Marty, I guess we won't know till it happens, but I'm gonna be real curious to see how 6,000 watts at 88.9 affects the low power station at 89.1 in Pacific Beach. And I know that they're supposedly a non-commercial low power station too. I drove up the coast last week and discovered them, tuned into them for a good part of my drive, and you'd never know they were non-commercial with some of the advertisements they had on there for local pubs and bars and other things that were going. They're totally different from what we're putting out. And but they had a good signal all the way to Copalis Beach, because I tuned in till I got down to the Green Lantern for lunch. So anyway, I'm just kind of curious. I got a feeling that once 88.9 is up, 89.1 will no longer be broadcasting to Copalis Beach.
Well, so I've had that in my mind since I applied for the frequency. I'm a compassionate person, believe it or not, despite how I might conduct myself sometimes. I have a full intention, and Butch will likely be joining me, is to go up and visit with the station up there. You are correct. We will wipe them out. They will not even be able to be received at the Wacky warehouse, which is where their studio is located downtown. Their tower site, well, their antenna site is on the roof of the fire department, local volunteer fire department station, which is right on the highway. So it's got a little bit of a rise above over Packed Beach, and that's how they pick up their coverage. They are a bit of a loosely controlled group, but there are a couple of things I could tell you on the sidebar about their operations that are a little bit off the norm. But in any event, I'm intending to go up with Butch. We'll sit down, have a little chat with them, inform them of the facts. The facts are that a fully licensed regular Class A facility or B or C facility trumps a low power FM station. So that's sad for them. However, the rules allow low power FMs to find another spot on the dial that will be less subject to interference. And I've already done some searches and found a couple of frequencies that would be quite compatible with their operation to be able to continue going forward. And all they would have to do, and I'll again volunteer to offer them technical support, as I have in the past. In fact, I spoke with a friend of mine at the FCC on their behalf regarding some tower site issues they were having. And what we'll do is recommend that they have this alternate frequency apply to the FCC. It's a very simple application form, and they can change frequency,
Yeah,
continue
you think they could
operating.
maybe have 91.3 by then.
I'm a little reluctant to offer them that one. Originally, my thought process was that would be a very kind offering. However, I think the confusion factor might be a little more than I'm comfortable with, particularly if we miss any of the evacuation signs out here that instruct evacuees to tune to 91.3 for emergency evacuation information. We'll need to change those anyway to reading 88.9. However, just until we are certain that all of those are gone, I would not want somebody else to end up on 91.3 and then lead to confusion that during an actual emergency, they're still running music or something. So I appreciate your thinking on that too. And we'll keep all of that going forward. Butch?
Yeah, are we still on the tech report?
Yes.
Okay, I have something kind of unrelated to the tower, but I talked to our webmaster last night and we are going kind of excited. We're going to redo our website, make it more user friendly. We're going to make spaces for advertisement on there so I can go on there and edit myself without having to go through our webmaster to get it done. So you're going to, by the time we get our new 88.9, we got broadcast, and we'll have to open up with a brand new website that's going to be user friendly. We're kind of excited about it. So any ideas from the board that want to send it my way that they'd like to have on the web, I sure appreciate it. My internet sucks here.
Yeah, I got
Did
that
you catch
too.
any of that?
Yes, indeed. Most of it came through, Butch. One sec, Tom. I was going to say one thing that we need to make sure that we do is make sure it's a secure site going forward for
Yes.
our
yes.
merch purposes and all. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
We've
Tom,
kind
you
of
had
learned
your
from
hand
our
up.
past mistakes.
Great. Hey, hey, I'm really sorry that, but I'm not as tech savvy as I thought. I was outside with my propane guy to tell me that I need a new propane tank. And I guess I sort of forgot about everything else for a minute. So what I did here, I guess a couple of questions regarding the transmitter site. Is that going to be public access? Oh, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Hatfield, for being so proficient and aware and knowledgeable about so much. It's like you're some sort of encyclopedia here.
Well, I've lived it a long time.
That's why you make the big bucks or get the big
Yeah.
stars. But is this site going to have public access? The construction
No,
side of it?
the tower site is only the transmitting facility. The
Right.
studio will remain where it is at this
Where the
point.
transmitter site is. You said you walked up there to Log Road?
Well, yeah, there's a secure gate just off the highway or Ocean Beach Way or whatever it's called there. There's a secure gate, and then you can walk about, that's not even half a mile up the hill to the actual tower site. So most tower sites are not publicly accessible because, you know, we don't want to become an attractive nuisance.
Oh,
And
I'm a retired electrician. I'm sorry, I'm spoiled. I guess I built a couple of those places, so I guess I thought automatically I would go see how good it was. But
yeah.
that's all right. And then we also talked about this guy who's offering the 10,000 watt transmitter.
yes.
Yeah, I'd sure like to acknowledge him or send some sort of public thank you to him to let him know that that donation is more than appreciated, you know?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. We'll do that. And we'll, after we get it and make sure that it's all functional and everything, even if it's not, we'll definitely make a very nice notation of his offering of it.
Great.
Well, Bill and I have been friends for about 45 years in broadcast. So that's the way things work most of the time. When somebody has some surplus equipment, they send out an email and say, hey, anybody need this old antenna, this old transmission line, this old transmitter? It saves it from going into the scrapyard. Even if it doesn't work, it can be parted out and used for people who might have some other special projects, typically ham operators and things like that.
Well, it's a beautiful reminder that this whole effort or thing that we're doing here is based on friendship and cooperation and being aware of each other's wants and desires so that we can broadcast that to neighbors and friends who have things. So that I think that's really good that he does that. And that brings us to mind, if the transmitter cost is too much, have you made any contact with Q Nation, Q Land people to say, because we did talk earlier, if I remember correctly, you talked about doing more things with the Q Nation. And I guess, to me, back and forth balance, is there some sort of land that they get offered just for being, Black American, Scottish American, Native American,
Sure.
Is that
Well,
something that- yeah.
I've been hesitant to turn that page yet until we actually had the construction permit literally in hand, which now we do. So yeah, those efforts, those were more efforts of directionality for where we wanted to go. Now we can actually implement those since we have a construction permit, and then we can talk to them and find out. We can say we have 6,000 watt coverage. Here's our situation. What can you do to help us? How can we help you? How can we better carry the messages of the tribe to their own people, as well as informing the non-tribals? So yeah, those are all wonderful aspirational thoughts that I'd had. And now it's time to put those into effect.
Great. It sounds beautiful. And I guess I look at that as not only cost saving, but as a neighbors helping neighbors. And
yes.
So I think that's how I like to approach that. And darn, I'm glad that's being done. And I'm so happy because the website is more user friendly. I couldn't copy down the schedule so that I could paste it on all my radio sources. So that's gonna make my wife happy because I've got it on some music she doesn't like. And so that way I can say, okay, I'm gonna turn this off. So
Sure.
and once again, hey, I'm sorry for being late and thanks for being patient with me.
It's quite all right. We're all here. That's what counts. Daryl, and then Butch, and then we'll try to move on.
And then Rosanna.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
All right, sorry.
I've got a couple of technical questions for you there, Marty. In fact, I was going to ask today about the construction permit, so that's really great news. Is regarding KXPB there in Pacific Beach, 89.1. Are most of the transmitters that they've got, are they agile? Do you just dial up a different frequency and away you go?
Yes. In fact, low power FMs are required to, well, they're not required to be frequency agile, but everybody builds them in because that's the way transmitters are built these days. But they have, they're required to have built-in audio processing and a few things like that, because the idea is the low power FM is like micro community radio is really what it is. And in big cities, you might only get a 2 or 3 block radius of coverage. We're fortunate out here because our interference has been relatively low, other than the Class A that's over at Westport. So the commission ordered that transmitters built for low power FMs have certain limitations on their ability. They can't just run their power way up because there's a power limit on low power FM of 100 watts. So since technically we're only licensed at 89 watts because of the height of our antenna right now, we'll be able to go all the way up in power for whatever we need. Once you're in the full FM broadcast, the commission expects that you're going to be responsible. They take kind of the contrary vision for those that are in the low power world, thinking it's a little bit of a Wild West area there. So we'll just put these constraints on them, and they kind of have to comply with those because there's no way around it generally. And if they do find a way around it, boy, oh boy, do they get their wrists slapped. So, or worse, lose their license or their permits.
So if we get that frequency, we're banging on them, they just simply turn their dial to a different frequency. Once they get the permission from the SEC, they
Correct.
just flip the dial And so it's not a really big deal then, is it?
No, there might, depending on how far away the frequency is and the characteristics of their FM antenna, it might have to help tune their antenna just a little bit. But generally speaking, no, it's very straightforward, and the application process is very straightforward. So that's why I say I'm more than willing to help them with that. And I'll just do it gratis, just to be another one of those good neighbor things.
So with our current broadcast pattern that you're anticipating, will we also be covering Forks? Is that an area that?
Forks is a big stretch.
Okay.
I'm hoping that the area toward Amanda, well, I don't know that we'd actually reach Amanda Park. The terrain is pretty irregular going that way. There's a chance that we'll have a slot that will give us some coverage into Lake Quinault, but that's about as far over in the upper 101 area that we would likely cover at this time.
So given that there's a high school, I believe, in Tahola, and there's the one in Quinault, will it be a good idea for us with a new pickup pattern and license to cover sports in those areas?
Very possibly. Let's see how it goes. I can start focusing on those areas and see that we, in fact, we don't want to go to them if we don't really have coverage there. Just because the FCC curve shows that you do or do not have coverage doesn't mean that you do or do not have coverage in those areas. The signal, reflects very nicely off of mountains, and there's a very distinct possibility that some of those areas may get some reception. I do have access to some propagation software that I can run that'll give us a little bit better of an idea. My focus had been right along the coastline so that I'd be able to positively say that we'll have a decent coverage of all of the North Beach area, as well as some of the area across toward Grayland. But I have not focused on the northeastern sector, beyond Tahola, and I'll take a look at that.
Okay, my final question for you is, back in the old days when I was working in radio, we had to change our pickup patterns at night. Is that an issue with this station?
No, FM does not suffer the same diurnal propagation character. Oh boy, there's a mouthful. So AM signals reflect off the ionosphere, and in the daytime, the coverage area is held fairly close. At nighttime, the reflection angles can go all the way across the country. So that's why some stations have to reduce power, some stations have to go to a directional pattern, and some stations have to go off the air at night to protect older stations, because there's a hierarchy at the FCC where the protections are afforded to the earliest facilities. So as you make changes in your facilities, your susceptibility to interference can change. But no, FM is not subject to the same signal variances. There are other signal variances, such as temperature inversions, significant cloud activity that can cause reflections of signal, but they're extremely statistical in nature, and it's nothing that is ever relied on for FM broadcast. There are some small characteristics to it, but the signal variances are very small compared to AM. So, okay, Butch, you were number 2, and then comes Roseanne. Butch, you're up.
Just one question. Is our readouts on like car radios and stuff?
I'm sorry. So your first part was all springy sounding. So you're just saying that does RBDS follow with the station when we move?
Yeah, going to a tube transmitter, is that going to affect our ability to have like our song readouts and stuff like that?
No, not at all. It's just an amplifier. Just a high power amplifier, basically. It takes the RF signal and then amplifies it up so that we get the amount of power that we need for coverage. But yeah, all of the stereo is fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, we would not compromise on that. Wow. Good. Yes, Rosanna.
All right, so you may have answered this earlier, but are we considered 600 or 1,000 watts now? And do we still say LP on air? When we say
For now.
KOSW, LP, yada, yada.
Right. Until the new facility is built and tested and then allowed to operate under what's called Program Test Authority while the final nuances of the license are prepared, we will stay KOSW LP, and we will stay on 91.3, and we will stay at about 100 watts effective radiated power. Once we have Program Test Authority, we will become KOSW FM. We will be on 88.9, and we will be a full class A 6,000 watt station.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm at 100 watts. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other quick questions? Don, do you have any question that you'd like?
No, nothing. Oh,
Okay.
Could you comment about the city council broadcasts, why they're so great now? Was last meeting.
Sure,
I can-
certainly. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Well, what we've done is we have our staff on site. Trey was on site early to be able to get everything set up and pre-tested out. Butch is at the studio end, making sure that the receiving end of the transmission that comes via internet over to the studio was in solid shape. And there was enough time to be able to get any of the little hiccups out of the way and do testing with the city council's audio feed. The filter that we had previously installed was used, and it just came. Oh, the other thing that was different from the previous time when it was horrible is rather than relying on the Ocean Shores Convention Center public internet access feed, the station has a hotspot, MiFi type hotspot, and that was utilized to execute the connection from the convention center into the cellular system and then down to the studio. Trey, do you have any other little nuance about that?
Well, as it turns out, I think I determined why the broadcast 2 meetings ago did not work and why the most recent one did. And it's because of a setting in our streaming tool, which is called Broadcast Using This Tool, which goes by the abbreviation BUT. And we had been using the same configuration for years and it had worked. And yet 2 meetings ago, it did not work for some reason. I dickered around actually even before I went in for the city council meeting. And I tried a different setting, and that made all the difference in the world, but it's a setting that we had never, ever used before. And yet, as Don said, it worked. In fact, I went in early for the last meeting, anticipating a lot of problems, and it connected right up.
Good.
No issue whatsoever. But Don, to answer your question, the difference is rather than doing a 1-person crew, we have a 2-person crew. 1 on site, 1 in the studio.
Right. Well, very good. I know you guys had really we've all been working together to try to focus on what could make the most improvement. And we have a longer term plan, but we have to wait until the convention center has their new audio system apparently, which may come sometime this year. But we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, we'll continue the best efforts on you sticking with the process that is now has a success story behind it. And so thanks again, Trey and Butch. Appreciate that. Tom, did you have one more comment? Okay. All right, well, let's move on to our members' reports. I've added this. I've already kind of exhausted my voice for the moment, but I like that the city council has a process where the individual members have an opportunity to say to the group and to the public, you know, what they've been working on, relative to our efforts on the radio board and other important facts that that might be germane to our discussions today. And so we've now going forward, we've added the section that is board member report. So beyond what I have said, let's move on to Daryl. Daryl, do you have like an activities?
Well, not much, except that we had an email that came out and asked us all to look at various community radio stations. And I was able to listen to the one in Montesano a little bit in the car. And then the one I was really going to focus on was one out, I think it's, I want to say it's KEXP, it's Radio Tacoma, that picked up our Wazoo Nation show and they broadcast it. But they're a small small low power. I believe it's licensed to a church, and they're doing a lot of community stuff. However, it stopped working on TuneIn. In fact, all of my TuneIn feeds kind of went away, so I wasn't able to continue to do that. But I'd like to perhaps throw it out again that we again pick a station and write some kind of report up, perhaps for the next meeting, to report back how these other community stations are, how they're doing things, what their commercial ratio is, what kind of programming they've got, and what our various opinions are of them. So that's all I've got.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Daryl. One of the things too, and you mentioned commercials, of course, being non-commercial, we skirt around the terminology. But I was going to say, you know, with our efforts on the website improvements, there is our opportunity to truly do advertising, because we're only constrained from doing true modern style commercials on the broadcast. We're not constrained on our internet stream or on our website. Since it's a little difficult, although not impossible, to split the web stream from the regular broadcast content to be able to insert commercials, which can be done. The website is a perfect billboard for those who support us with our non-commercial acknowledgements on the air, and giving them a place for an actual business card or other support that we can charge an actual significant amount for, based on our followers on our page. So anyway, it's just another one of those angles. I know Butch and Trey are working on that. Tom, you're excited about this.
Yes, more than I should be, because I want to keep my high blood pressure down. When you mentioned the word commercial for this educational station, isn't it opening up a Pandora's box? I mean, when people go to the, I want to go back a couple of pages here, and I want to say that somehow we should connect with our cable provider and say, hey, instead of playing commercial music, they should play KOSW on that. And there should be some negotiation there. And that's going to do two things. That's going to expand our coverage that we were talked about earlier. Mr. Prowse talked about earlier that, and we'll also, I also like to say that I believe that as you have working on so hard, exposing this station up and down the coast, I believe that being a separate entity for North Beach is going to inspire a lot more contributions and donations than previously thought. Now, there's two things I'm totally against. Oh, that's going back to that direction again. Politicians. Sure, I welcome politicians of all calibers, but I don't want to, since we're going up and down the coast, I don't want to limit myself to Ocean Shores. I don't want Pacific Beach saying, well, how come Ocean Shores got 5 minutes? I only get 30 seconds. No, I think each segment should be allowed a time to discuss what their city council is doing and how they're going about doing it, separate from politics, just a regular report. Same thing with commercials. If the donut shop donates money, you know, hey, this was brought to you by the donut shop, you know, bam, okay, that's great. And you mentioned other stations. What do they say? This show is brought to you by the donut shop and contributors like you know,
Right.
okay, they never. So I think that going that word commercial, especially as a city-owned, what's her name, Ms. Logan, as a city-owned station, that's a Pandora's box. So any way that we can avoid that, and I think that as I talk to business owners up and down the coast, they're excited about the station. And one of the things that they want to agree on is the fact that people have access to the station via Twitter, Facebook. When you mention internet, you must mean all social media avenues as well as the station's website. I'm not sure what the volunteer is doing for Mr. Trey, but that's some of the things that should be done. Just sitting down, and it sounds like a guy that wants to sit down and twiddle, you know, let him twiddle with Twitter and Tumblr and whatever else is out there. I'm sorry, I guess maybe I should have. I'll shut up now. But
It's fine. We're all feeling out the factors of our meetings. So no worries at all, Tom. Will Trey, go right ahead.
Tom, just so you know, we have a Facebook presence. Butch and I both kind of manage that. We do have a Twitter account, but quite frankly, I find Twitter to be very insipid. And so I don't have much of an interest in maintaining that. If you would like to maintain our Twitter account, that would be great. I believe we might have an Instagram account. I'm not sure. We do have a YouTube channel. Damon, who is our webmaster, he and I had gone out and actually filmed some stuff for different businesses and stuff. And so those are on our YouTube channel, but this is a way maybe different board members or just different other members of our volunteer community, if they would like to take on a certain aspect. You know, I agree that I thought Twitter would be a great way for listeners to be able to communicate, but I just don't like Twitter. And even though we have an account, I just don't do anything on it.
Well, I did mention in an email that one of the things I like to see is a better description about the disc jockeys and the music they play. Now, that's something I'm willing to tackle right now. Be that proofreading or copying someone's description. But as I talk to the business owners, they don't know what's out there. They don't know what's coming. Okay, so let's face it. We have Mr. Butch is doing the website. One of the things that I'm going to ask him if I can help him with is getting that website up so that it's reader friendly. And yes, there are half a dozen social media sites out there, but we also know, all living in Ocean Shores, that there are at least 20 Facebook pages that do nothing but, aggravate me and other people with misinformation. So what we can strive to do is make sure that when people come to Facebook, when they come to Ocean Shores website and Twitter and whatever else, Tumblr, Instagram, that when they come there, it's based on real facts, the real life of our disc jockeys, and real images of what our disc jockeys. And no, you know what? You just playing music, as a disc jockey for a country western station, as a news announcer for other stations. It was my job to promote the station, however I could, and represent that in a positive, progressive manner. And I think that is also the responsibility of the current disc jockeys. I'm not saying that they should take on future roles, but while you're sitting there playing music, Twitter about that song, what it means to you, okay? Twitter about the first concert you went to about that person. That's you're in a communications mode. You're in a job that requires personal interaction. Maybe someone mentioned AM. Yeah, right. I used to sit in my house in Wisconsin and listen to New York stations at night. My mom hated that, but that's what people want to do and will continue to do, to seek truth. Okay, so let me stop there. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Yeah, we need to stay on point here. We're starting to go a little bit far afield.
Yeah, you're right.
Correct
Sorry.
stuff. But that's okay. Rosanna, do you have any comments for your activities?
I did drop off the revisions a couple of weeks ago to Butch, and I did include a page as a rough draft for the handbook and pulled from the personnel manual. A few additions and or expansions that are possible, but again, this is all new. Do we add COVID and variant guidelines, podcaster mention, any kind of new bylaw, donation, fundraising steps or procedures, including a copy of the underwriter check to Trey and Butch, and the check goes to Sarah. Also possible procedures regarding DJ volunteers taking time off. Do they get their show back? Can they take a leave of absence? A lot of detail about that to be discussed. And also what I pulled from the personnel manual, mainly because it wasn't just based on paid employee. That was a lot of that. There was a lot of detail on safety, ethics, sensitivity training, and criminal background info. Now, we have that in the handbook. Do we want to expand it? I really don't know, but that's what I pulled at this time for that. So again, this is a rough draft for the committee that I also included in the revisions to Butch. Thank you.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. And maybe Butch can put those into circulation so the rest of us on the board could have an examination period of those and offer our own comments to that. Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say that this weekend I did go to that seafood fest there on Saturday and talked to a couple of different vendors that they had about KOSW, just mainly as just a person of the public. The matter of fact, the fellow who owned Ace Hardware, he asked me what station I listened to. And I said, KOSW. And he said, oh, okay, well, I said, and I never hear him talk about you on there. And he said, well, they can't do advertisements. I said, well, that's funny because they do underwriters, I think. And if it wasn't for KOSW, I would have never heard about Northwest Backhoe or the Mermaid Gallery and Gifts. And because I hear about a lot of companies on KOSW. And then I did the same thing with the Quinault Casino folks that had a thing at the door. I told him that I thanked him for sponsoring the Seafood Fest, and I told him I would have never known that Quinault Casino did sponsor it, except for the fact that I heard it on KOSW radio. So, because I know you're wanting to make some inroads with the Quinault thing, so I just thought I'd plant a few seeds. So I just, anyway, just had some fun. I also followed up with the Tsunami Ball guy was in town. He wasn't part of the Seafood Fest. I think that's a big mistake on his part. He said he couldn't get a response back from those people, so he could participate. But anyway, he was in town for a 3-day weekend. I did catch up with him on Saturday, and he is going to write a check to the station to support underwrite a year of weather. And so that I got a feeling that check is probably already getting put in the mail. I got all the details I needed to get from Trey to figure out who to send the check to, and I know the fellow just wants his website and his phone number on there because his company is called Reliable Emergency Shelters, but his website's called tsunamipods.com, and he doesn't want to confuse people with two different things. So anyway, so all in all, had a good weekend, and got out a lot more than I normally do.
There's a form that is appropriate to have filled out that it will include all those details. Butch can probably get a copy of it too.
Yeah, I'd need to see it because when I asked Trey just wrote me and said, have him sign the pamphlet that Trey had sent him, which is the same pamphlet I gave him. So I haven't seen any form that asks people for other information. If there's one out there, I'd love to have a copy of it.
No.
Okay, well, and if there isn't one, we'll get one going that's appropriate, especially for our going forward. Let's move on. Tom, do you have anything really brief you want to drop in, or you pretty well cover it? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, council liaison report. Frank, how are things on the council perspective? Or did I lose Frank? Oh, there he is. Go ahead and try your audio, Frank.
Is that better?
Oh, yes, there you go.
Okay, I didn't know I was to bring a report to you. Everything's going fine on the council. We're plugging along, but I don't have anything special to report.
Okay. Well, certainly if you get some feedback, I would certainly appreciate that. Well, let's move on then. Sarah, do you have a financial report?
I do. So as was in your packets, the February financials and the executive summary was available. It shows the radio station at $49,946.66. Just a reminder, as I reminded last month, 25,000 of that is earmarked for the frequency upgrade. So just something to be cognizant of. I've talked with Butch and I've talked with Councilmember Eldwin because, we'll want to keep that in the budget if it's not expensed by the end of the year, and probably ask for more than normal so that it includes that information. On a different subject, because there is some money budgeted for a shed, Butch and myself and Jenny Belcher in our purchasing department and Robert Lund, who's our city engineer, had a meeting yesterday. Robert is going to come and look at the property and kind of look at the different setbacks and space available on if we could even put a reasonable size shed there while adhering to those setbacks. And also two other options. One Robert's looking into, which is a building on the public works yard that might be able to be solely utilized by the radio station for storage of equipment or co-storage. And then I'm going to look at heated storage facilities just to see if it's an option if we run out of all of them. So
Okay.
that's about all I have.
Okay, terrific. Quick note, Daryl dropped out, his laptop battery went dead, so that's an indication that we all need to be moving forward. Thank you, Sarah. And Daryl will be popping back in shortly, I suspect. All right, let's move on to old business. We have some notes obviously have been received from Rosanna, and Butch is going to put those into circulation. Is there any other real quick discussion points? Yes, Butch.
Before anything goes in circulation, I've asked all volunteers to go through their handbooks and do notes and whatever they think wants to be changed. And I asked them to all give it back to me. And then our committee is going to get together after we receive those. Or if they don't receive them, we're going to do it anyway. We're just the committee will work on it. We're going to divide our handbook up between 4 or 5 people, and each one will have a section they're going to work on. Then we'll bring them back together again.
Okay.
And that's where we're at. Right now, the only one I've received so far is from Roseanne.
Okay.
So at our staff meeting next week, I'm going to give them the last final thing to turn it in. Otherwise, they won't have any say-so in it.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. I appreciate that. That kind of illuminates an area that we've been kind of skirting around, and now we can see that there'll be some progress in the near future with some additional feedback. So, all right. Moving on to new business, just I'll throw in a quick new business item. And I'm not sure how we should approach this, Sarah, but I would like to well, I've already stated that I have a group of I don't want to say station identification liner notes that I would like to have the city council members do station IDs for KOSW. And just as a rough, I have like about, I don't know, 6 or 8 of them. And what I would like to do is have each one of the city council members read something along this lines. Hello, my name is, hi, I'm Mayor John Martin. I work for you at the City of Ocean Shores as mayor. You're listening to KOSW LP 91.3 Ocean Shores, Washington. KOSW is your all-volunteer community radio station broadcasting 24 hours a day. We are the sound of the shores. Those types of IDs, I really want to get the level racked up in participation by the council members. This is their radio station. They're the licensees of the station, the mayor and the city council members. So what a wonderful opportunity to be able to get their name out repeatedly to the public, demonstrating their not only involvement, but interest in the station at a level that they're willing to record a simple station identification. And to give an opportunity for them to tune in and hear their own voice on the air too. So I know we've talked about it, but I would like to see, Sarah, is there a way we could put like a footnote to the council that would say perhaps after the next upcoming council meeting that we could take 60 seconds of the time of each one of the council members to just raw record one of these, and then we'll clean it up in post-production and do that. Is that something you could facilitate?
Yeah, do you want to send that over, and I'll actually send a note out about it today, and then I'll add it to the distribution of the agenda and see it. That way it gives time for people to come back and say, I have no problem doing this, or
Sure.
Or what have you. So if you want to give that, I can send out a note today about it.
Okay, I will do that. I'll do it right after we get through with the meeting, and they'll be able to feel free to doctor up the script. That there's only one little part that has to be there, and that is KOS, for now anyway, KOSW LP Ocean Shores.
Do they have an option, Marty, to just record it themselves and send it in?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I mean,
Yeah.
that might be something too, where, hey, you don't have to stick around council if you want to just send in a recording audio file. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't want to presume that anybody had capabilities. I mean, obviously it can be done on any device, including a cell phone. So that's more than adequate. And then we'll take it from there. So that's one item. So thank you for that, Sarah. Anybody have other new business that they'd like to be heard? Okay, well, with that, no discussion apparently. We'll look to our future agenda, which will be coming up on our next meeting is April 26th. Unless there's some reason for a special meeting in between, we'll plan on gathering again at 10:30 on Tuesday, April 26th. Oh, Butch, you have something. Go ahead. You're muted right now.
Yeah, I forgot. Am I okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Now I forgot what the heck I was
Oh.
gonna say, but
Damn.
we had, golly. Oh, well, I'll have to ask you later, I guess.
That's okay. We all go.
It was
through
something
this.
we had talked about. Yeah, well, I forget it. I lost it.
It'll come back. It'll come back. Butch.
I hope so.
Right. Just as
A lot of
Eventually,
things come back.
eventually.
just as the last person leaves the meeting. Yes. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you very much. And certainly, Butch, feel free to send out an email
Yeah.
if you have a specific question. Just circulate it out to all the parties here, and we'll address it. Okay. Great.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. Thank you all for attending and for your feedback and comments. We've got a lot of exciting things ahead of us, and thanks for your belief, your commitment to helping us make this thing move forward. And we're going to have a lot of fun and just improve the community relations all the way around. That's our goal. So
Thank you.
take
and then
care.
a motion to
A
adjourn.
motion, I
Oh,
make a
that's right.
motion to end this meeting.
Okay. And a second? Do I have someone who will second that from the board?
Second that, if you hear
Oh,
me.
thank you, Tom. Thank you. All right.
Bye,
hearing
everybody.
that,